The story begins 5 years after World War II, on a day in June 1950. In a small village, a little girl named Soy is introduced. Her father brings her a gift, a bicycle that he made himself. Overjoyed, little Soy eagerly begins to ride it. However, her happiness is short-lived. Suddenly, the sound of a plane fills the air, and bombs start falling on the village. This marks the beginning of an invasion, where North Korea, with the help of Soviet Russia, launches an attack to seize South Korea. Soy's father tells her and her mother to flee, while he stays behind to face the North Korean soldiers. Little Soy, terrified, cries uncontrollably. Her mother hides her under a small bunker and makes Soy promise to stay quiet no matter what happens. After getting Soy's promise, her mother heads off in the same direction as her father, leaving Soy behind. Soy, still scared, hears the continuous sound of gunfire around her. She sits alone, sobbing. Meanwhile, the North Korean soldiers completely destroy the village, killing everyone they find, including Soy's parents. The scene shifts from South Korea to Turkey, where we meet Ali, waiting outside for his friend to get ready. That friend is Suleiman, the hero of our story. Despite Ali's calls, Suleiman takes his time preparing. Eventually, he joins Ali, and they set off on their journey. Along the way, more of their friends join them. They are soldiers who have just completed their university education and are now serving in the army. As they walk, Ali stops at a shop to buy a poster of his favorite singer. Every time they pass this way, they are watched by Nuran, Suleiman's girlfriend. After they leave, Nuran's friend tells her that because of the conflict in South Korea, the government might send a group of soldiers there, and wonders if Suleiman will be among them. Nuran, too, is fearful that Suleiman might be sent away. When they arrive at their camp, Suleiman's commander announces that a peacekeeping force is being sent to South Korea, and since Suleiman is a skilled mechanic, he has been selected to go. Suleiman accepts the news happily, seeing it as a chance to serve his country. Later that evening, when the group gathers at a canteen, they learn that Ali will also be joining Suleiman on the mission to South Korea. One of their friends warns Suleiman that even as a mechanic, he might have to face battle. But Suleiman remains resolute. That night, Suleiman goes to see his girlfriend Nuran. Nuran's parents have passed away, and she was raised by her uncle, who is eager to marry her off and be done with his responsibility. Suleiman promises Nuran he'll return safely, and they agree to marry once he comes back. Suleiman's parents live in a city called Maras, a bit far from where he currently resides. He sends a telegram informing his father about his upcoming deployment. The telegram is read by Nimit, a close family friend who has been promised to Suleiman for marriage by his parents. They don't know about Nuran. Both Nimit and Suleiman's parents are deeply worried about his journey. Meanwhile, Suleiman and Ali set off for South Korea aboard an American warship. During the voyage, Suleiman sends messages to Nuran, his parents, and his friends, updating them on his journey. On the ship, they undergo various training exercises. A Turkish officer named Lieutenant Mesut works as the translator for the soldiers. One day, Mesut complains to Suleiman that his cabin is infested with ants, and the situation is so bad he can't sleep. He asks Suleiman for some diesel to get rid of them. However, Suleiman suggests a kinder solution: he gives the ants sugar instead. When Mesut spreads the sugar in his cabin, the ants flock to it, solving the problem without the need for killing. During one of the target shooting exercises on the ship, Ali demonstrates excellent skills. By October 1950, the Turkish peacekeeping forces arrive at the port of Busan, South Korea. Their camp is located in a region called Daegu. By this time, the North Korean forces that had invaded South Korea have been pushed back to the border. All that remains is the final battle at the border. The soldiers are moved to a camp near the border at a place called Kunari. The villages along the way are completely destroyed due to North Korean attacks. Upon arriving at the Kunari camp, the soldiers hear rumors that the war may already be over. Some believe there won't be any more major battles. As they discuss the situation, North Korean forces suddenly launch an attack on the camp. Amidst the chaos and destruction, the soldiers frantically search for their commanding officer. They eventually find out that communication lines are down, making it impossible to send a message to the 9th Battalion, which is supposed to be alerted in emergencies. Suleiman and some others volunteer to drive to the battalion to deliver the message. Meanwhile, in Turkey, word spread that the war was over before Turkish soldiers arrived in Korea. Nuran and others are very happy with the prospect of the end of the war. Back in South Korea, Suleiman, Mesut, Ali, and their commander set off to deliver the message to the 9th Battalion. As they drive through the dark without headlights to avoid detection, their commander suggests they should turn on the lights and speed up. As soon as they do, 2 North Korean soldiers spot them and fire at their vehicle. Fortunately, they manage to escape before the vehicle explodes. Ali quickly shoots the 2 North Korean soldiers, killing them. Since the vehicle also exploded, they had no choice but to continue their journey on foot. As they walked, they saw the bodies of South Korean soldiers left scattered, killed by the North Korean army. At that moment, they heard a sound as if someone was calling out. Suleiman told everyone to stay put and went ahead to check out the noise. However, all he could see were more dead bodies piled up. As he turned to leave, the sound started again. This time, as he moved closer, he saw a small girl sitting next to a dead body, looking at him. Suleiman approached and spoke to her. Even though she had never met Suleiman before, the little girl began to cry and cling to him. Suleiman rejoined the group, taking the girl with him, and they continued their journey. After a long journey, they arrived at a camp set up by the 9th Battalion. Suleiman's commander, Lieutenant Masoud, went to report the situation. Ali, Pepe, and Suleiman stayed outside with little Soy, who hadn't spoken a word and was clearly terrified. In this moment, they gave her the Turkish name Ayla. Meanwhile, inside the camp, Masoud, acting as the translator, relayed the American commander's orders to his superior. They learned that China had also begun to support North Korea against South Korea. He decided that several special officers and additional military forces would be sent on a mission, and the team would soon depart for Kunuri. Outside, Ali was covering Ayla with a blanket, and Pepe brought her some milk. As they continued their journey toward Kunuri, they stopped at one point to find a shortcut. As they prepared to move again, a vehicle experienced a mechanical failure. Suleiman was called to fix it, but Ayla wouldn't let him go. She clung to him, so he took her out of the vehicle. Seeing this, Suleiman's commander assigned another soldier to look after Ayla while they waited for the vehicle to be repaired. Due to the delay, the rest of the soldiers were ordered to move on. While Suleiman was repairing the vehicle and Ayla sat nearby, the other soldiers moved ahead towards Kunuri. Just as they were about to leave, the soldier assigned to watch over Ayla was shot in the head. Ayla survived by sheer luck. When they looked around, they saw North Korean soldiers targeting them from the hilltop. As the attacks intensified, the group found themselves trapped with no escape. Suleiman quickly made a small bomb using a bottle of milk, a tire, and some diesel fuel and sent it toward the enemy. With Ali's precise shooting, they managed to cause significant damage to the enemy forces. At the same time, the American soldiers who had previously moved ahead towards Kunuri returned to help. Ali and his group skillfully killed the North Korean soldiers attacking from the hills and slopes. They told Suleiman to keep Ayla safe as more enemies approached. Suleiman had another idea. He poured diesel around their position and set it on fire, creating a barrier to slow the enemy. Although Suleiman had never fought before, he fought bravely and skillfully. However, in the end, he was injured. When the American forces arrived and helped to end the battle, they were amazed at the damage such a small group had inflicted on the enemy. Meanwhile, news spread in Turkey that the war had started again. Suleiman's friends, Nuran, his parents, and Nimit, were all worried, fearing for Suleiman and Ali's safety. Back at the camp, Suleiman regained consciousness and saw little Ayla asleep beside him, holding his hand. Ali and the others were impressed by Suleiman, not only for his skills as a mechanic but also for his bravery in battle. They also mentioned that ever since Suleiman brought Ayla with him, she hadn't left his side. Meanwhile, high-ranking officers in the South Korean army were discussing the future of orphan children. The Turkish military had proposed setting up a place, like a school, with all the necessary facilities for these children to live. In the meantime, Suleiman is called to meet with his superior, who praises him for his previous combat performance. He also tells him that it's not safe to keep a young child in the middle of this war zone, so they'll need to send Ayla away as soon as possible. Additionally, he's warned not to grow too attached to Ayla, as it might cause him great sorrow in the end. To help Suleiman manage things more easily, a junior soldier named Sadik is introduced, who will look after Ayla. Suleiman leaves Ayla with Sadik as he prepares to attend a medal ceremony. However, Ayla, not wanting to be apart from Suleiman, follows him closely and doesn't listen to anyone else. Eventually, Suleiman manages to slip away, leaving Ayla with Sadik, but this clever little girl secretly hides in a vehicle and manages to escape unnoticed. At the medal ceremony, Suleiman and his comrades, including Ali, are honored for their bravery in the previous battle. Suddenly, Ayla, who had hidden in the vehicle, shows up running toward Suleiman, making it clear that there's no escaping her. Even the American military officers present at the ceremony can't help but laugh and allow Ayla to stay. During the ceremony, Suleiman takes a few pictures with Ayla. Later, he sends one of the photos along with a letter to his parents and Nuran. His parents are thrilled to see the picture, but Nuran, his fiancée, is not so happy. She fears that Ayla might bring trouble for Suleiman. By January 1951, the war has calmed down somewhat, and snow begins to fall on Suleiman's camp. At this time, Suleiman's superior gives him a gift sent by his wife for Ayla, who had now become quite famous in the camp. The package contains clothes and shoes to keep Ayla warm during the winter. Ayla is overjoyed and continues to spend her days at the camp, carefully watching everything that happens. She happily plays with Suleiman, his friend Ali, and the other soldiers. Even Suleiman, who came to the war burdened by its horrors, now finds joy in looking after Ayla. Despite everything, Ayla has never spoken a word to Suleiman since the day they met. Time passes, Suleiman takes care of her as if he were her father. The bond between them grows stronger, and Ayla is no longer seen as an outsider in the camp. Everyone loves and cares for her, and she spends her days happily observing the soldiers' training. As the months pass, March 1951 arrives. One day, during a training session, Ayla suddenly starts giving orders in Turkish and following them, much to the delight of the soldiers. Even the officer in charge can't help but smile. Amid the mental strain of war, Ayla's antics bring joy and laughter to the troops. Seeing her eagerness to speak Turkish, Suleiman and Mesut decide to start teaching her the language. Over time, Ayla even learns to write her name in Turkish, and they spend their time watching Turkish movies and enjoying each other's company. One day, while looking at a family photo in a book, Ayla calls Suleiman father. Although Suleiman is a young man who has never been married, he doesn't hesitate to accept this role, as he has grown to love Ayla deeply. Time continues to pass, and by April 1951, Ayla finds a bicycle hidden in the camp, which belongs to Sadik. This bike was handmade by Sadik, using parts he collected from South Korean villages. Although Sadik cherished the bike, Mesut and Suleiman urge him to destroy it, fearing that the officers might cause trouble if they found out. Reluctantly, Sadik agrees to part with the bike he loved so much. On April 23, 1951, Suleiman, Ali, Lieutenant Mesut, and a few other officers were given leave to visit Tokyo, Japan. During this trip, they also decided to bring little Ayla with them. They spent a joyful and fun-filled time in the city. Ayla, who had been an orphan without parents, now felt like she had a family of her own. As the day came to an end, they stayed overnight at an inn in Tokyo. Early in the morning, Lieutenant Mesut, seeing how happy Suleiman was spending time with Ayla, asked, "Soon we'll be returning to Turkey. How will you leave this little Ayla behind?" Mesut also suggested that Suleiman start preparing for it. But for Suleiman, it wasn't going to be easy. Ayla had become like his own child. After their trip, when they returned to South Korea, Sadik came to pick them up. He secretly told Suleiman that he had found Ayla's family. Later, Sadik mentioned that he found Ayla's family living in a nearby village and that they were willing to take her back. That night, Suleiman secretly planned without Ali to leave the camp and meet Ayla's family, making Sadik promise not to tell anyone. Late at night, Suleiman went to meet the family. When he knocked on the door, a woman holding a young child greeted him. Suleiman, speaking in Korean, asked to enter. But it soon became clear that this was a trap, and 2 North Korean soldiers captured him. Meanwhile, at the camp, Pepe somehow found out about Suleiman's secret departure and told Ali. At the same time, the camp superiors assigned a mission to Suleiman and Ali. When Ali confronted Sadik, he learned that, despite Sadik's warnings, Suleiman had gone out alone. Concerned for Suleiman's safety, Ali and Sadik decided to go after him, but they had no vehicle. Ayla, overhearing their conversation, suggested they use Sadik's hidden motorbike, which was supposed to have been destroyed earlier. In the end, Sadik managed to start up his bike, and together with Ali, they went to find Suleiman. Meanwhile, Suleiman, now held captive by the North Korean soldiers, was being interrogated about South Korean military secrets. Just as things were about to get worse, Ali and Sadik arrived in time to rescue him. They escaped using Sadik's bike and headed back to camp. Sadik was thrilled to finally ride his bike after waiting so long for the chance. Back at the camp, Mesut and Pepe, realizing Suleiman and Ali were missing, lied to their superiors, saying Suleiman had stomach problems and was in the restroom. When the camp commander grew suspicious and decided to check the restroom, they had to come up with a plan. Ali and Suleiman reappeared just in time, but the commander eyed them strangely and mentioned that Marilyn, Ali's favorite singer, would be performing soon in the area. Unfortunately, Ali wouldn't be able to attend as he was assigned to a different mission. The next day, Ali was extremely upset about missing the chance to see Marilyn. Mesut, seeing his distress, offered a solution. He promised to attend the concert with Suleiman and get a signed photo from Marilyn for Ali, with his name on it. This made Ali very happy. At the concert, Suleiman, Mesut, and Ayla managed to catch Marilyn's attention. She approached them and spoke with Ayla, and as promised, Suleiman and Mesut got a signed photo from Marilyn for Ali, along with a kiss, thanks to Ayla. While this was happening, Ali was still distracted, staring at Marilyn's poster, but he soon became the target of a North Korean sniper. In his final moments, Ali whispered Suleiman's name before dying with Marilyn's photo in his hand. After fulfilling his promise to Ali, Suleiman had to attend his best friend's funeral, placing Marilyn's signed photo on his grave before leaving with a heavy heart. Months passed, and by July 1951, Suleiman's only joy was Ayla, who was living happily with him and Sadik. A few days later, their superiors informed them that it was time for Suleiman and his team to return to Turkey, as new soldiers would arrive to replace them. This news saddened Ayla because she knew she would be separated from Suleiman. As they discussed the upcoming separation, Suleiman told Ayla that he planned to stay as a volunteer for a little longer because he couldn't bear to leave her behind. His comrades, including Mesut, understood his feelings and agreed to let him stay. Suleiman also wrote a letter to Nuran, promising to return soon and asking her to be patient. He also mentioned that he still listened to songs on the radio every day. When the time finally came for them to part, Sadik and Private Pepe left the camp. To Ayla, they were her family, and she was heartbroken to say goodbye. Suleiman wrote letters to his parents too. However, they were upset because Suleiman had delayed his return. One day, remembering Suleiman's love for radio, Nuran requested a song for him on a broadcast. As the song played, both Suleiman and his friend, Nimit, heard it. While the song made Suleiman nostalgic for Nuran, Nimit was heartbroken, as she realized Suleiman already had a girlfriend. As time passed, Suleiman's superiors grew frustrated with his extended stay in Korea and ordered him to either leave immediately or resign. When Suleiman explained his attachment to Ayla, they reminded him that she was a Korean national and belonged in her country. Tensions continued to rise. Suleiman's parents and Nuran stopped sending him letters and parcels, adding to his worries. A few days later, Suleiman's superiors called him in again and informed him that the school the Turkish army had built for Korean orphans was now complete. They suggested that Ayla could be enrolled there, and the headmistress promised to take good care of her. Though Suleiman was reluctant, Mesut convinced him to consider it. Eventually, Suleiman agreed and took Ayla to the school called Ankara built by the Turkish army. When he dropped her off, Suleiman felt helpless, as he had no other choice. But seeing Ayla happily interacting with the other children brought him some comfort, knowing she had found a safe place. At the school, the children sang the Turkish national anthem, and Suleiman told Ayla that he would be proud if one day she could sing it better than anyone else. Hearing this, Ayla quickly joined the other children and started practicing. In the end, Suleiman saw Ayla was happy at the school, which gave him a sense of peace. He looked at her with sadness before leaving quickly. As Suleiman walked away, he heard Ayla call out, "Father." She ran after him, crying, asking why he was leaving when he promised never to abandon her. Unable to bear leaving her behind, Suleiman took Ayla with him. Back at the camp, Suleiman made plans to take Ayla with him to Turkey, packing her into a suitcase to avoid detection. The next morning, Suleiman arrived at the port with his suitcase, preparing to board the ship. However, the suitcase wasn't inspected here. Now, Suleiman has the chance to return to Turkey and live with Ayla once more. At that moment, Lieutenant Mesut and the headmistress of the Ankara school came running in. Mesut asked Suleiman where the child was. Seeing the suitcase, he ordered it to be inspected. Unfortunately, this is when Ayla and Suleiman were caught. When Suleiman was captured by the army, Lieutenant Mesut asked Suleiman to board the ship and go back home. Mesut told him to take a break in Turkey and return later to see Ayla. With these words, Suleiman's mind was made up, and he agreed to go home. In the end, there was nothing Suleiman could do. He had to say goodbye to Ayla. Both Ayla and Suleiman were heartbroken at having to part. Before leaving, Suleiman promised Ayla that he would return soon and that he would never leave her again. He also told her that fathers work hard for their children and live to fulfill the promises they've made to them. This small girl, who came into young Suleiman's life by chance and whom he grew to love like his own child, made him a father. Now, leaving her alone, Suleiman had no choice but to return to his homeland. And so, little Ayla was left alone again in that country. Months later, Suleiman returned to Turkey, where his friend greeted him. By this time, his friend had already married Nuran's friend. Moreover, Suleiman learned that not only had they married, but Nuran had also been forced into marriage. When Suleiman went to meet Nuran, he found out that he had arrived too late and that her uncle had forced her into marriage with someone else. Now, Suleiman had lost not only his friend Ali and little Ayla, but also Nuran. Feeling heartbroken by all these losses, Suleiman sent a letter to his parents, asking them to arrange his marriage with any girl of their choice. After Suleiman then left the city and returned to his birthplace, Maras. 5 months after these events, Süleyman married his childhood friend, Nimit, and they moved into a new house in Istanbul, Turkey. Although they were settled in a new home, Süleyman's married life with Nimit didn't seem as happy. After everything that happened, Süleyman was still troubled by thoughts of little Ayla. He kept trying to find a way to go back to South Korea to see her again. Every morning, he left home without even having breakfast and worked all day as a military technician, only returning home late at night. Several days passed like this. One morning, as Süleyman was getting ready to leave as usual, Nimit stopped him and asked, "Are you still looking for that girl in Korea?" At that moment, she asked him why he never talked to her about it and told him that she could help. So, Süleyman finally told her everything that had happened. After a long conversation, Nimit also began helping him to find Ayla and return to Korea. She started searching for Ayla through the embassy. Gradually, the distance that had once separated Süleyman and Nimit began to shrink as they worked together on this. However, after some time, the embassy informed them that they couldn't find any child named Ayla. Despite this, they promised to keep searching. When all their efforts seemed to be failing, Nimit kept encouraging Süleyman, telling him they would find Ayla someday. Süleyman was tormented by the thought that little Ayla might have forgotten her father. Years passed, and then suddenly, 47 years later, the story resumes with a rumbling of the earth. This is August 17, 1999 Marmara earthquake in Turkey. By now, Süleyman and Nimit were quite old. The next morning, people were being told to evacuate their homes due to the earthquake. Despite everyone urging him not to, Süleyman hurried back into the house, searching for something in his room. He found some old photos of him and Ayla. Nimit, seeing this, once again comforted Süleyman, but he was still deeply saddened that he hadn't been able to keep his promise to Ayla. During this time, many South Koreans had arrived to help the Turkish people after the earthquake. Süleyman, watching this on TV, was still hoping to catch a glimpse of Ayla among them. By this time, Süleyman had both a daughter and a son, who were very worried about him. They feared that he might fall ill from the stress of everything he had gone through. Nevertheless, Nimit, as she had always done, continued supporting Süleyman in his search for Ayla. Time passed, and in 2002, Süleyman was still watching Korean people on TV, hoping to find his Ayla. Although others in the family thought it was absurd, Nimit always sided with him. By now, Süleyman was very old. His sadness over Ayla had even started to affect his dreams, where he saw her vividly. One day, while Süleyman was dozing off in his chair, he was suddenly awakened by Nimit's voice. She had received a call from a reporter. They wanted to interview Süleyman about his experiences during the war. Nimit was overjoyed, thinking that this might be a chance to finally find Ayla. A few days later, the reporters came to interview Süleyman. After hearing his story, they promised to turn it into a documentary and also to search for Ayla. They left, taking the photos and information Süleyman had provided with them. The reporters traveled back to South Korea, where they began searching for clues based on the details Süleyman had shared. However, due to the destruction caused by the war, many records had been lost, making the search more difficult than anticipated. They also discovered that there was no child registered under the name Ayla. This meant they had to uncover her real name. Eventually, they tracked down 6 students from the Ankara school where Ayla had once studied and decided to interview them to learn more about Ayla. After several weeks, the journalist arrives with the information she gathered to meet Süleyman. The children in Ayla's class still remember her. After Süleyman's arrival, Ayla would always sit quietly in the corner of the classroom, repeating every day that her father was coming to take her back soon. While singing the Turkish national anthem, Ayla, who usually appeared sad, would sing louder than anyone else. When asked why, she said it was because she wanted her father to be proud of her. Hearing all this, Süleyman is reminded of old memories, causing him a great deal of sorrow. Seeing his reaction, the journalist promises to find Ayla quickly and prepares to leave. As she is about to go, Süleyman's daughter asks the journalist not to make her father sad or worsen his health by bringing up painful memories. The journalist agrees and leaves. Afterward, Süleyman, who overheard the conversation, asks his daughter why she said such a thing. He reassures her not to worry, that he is not unwell, and that he has a promise to fulfill before he dies. As they are leaving, the journalist receives a call saying that Ayla has been found. While discussing more details, her assistant informs her that Ayla's current name is Kim Yoonja and that her husband passed away when he was young. Ayla has been raising her children with the money she earns by working at a school. She is still employed there, working as a cleaner. At this point, the journalist decides not to inform Süleyman immediately, suggesting they first go and see Ayla themselves, especially given what Süleyman's daughter had said earlier. The very next day, the journalist travels to Korea to meet Ayla. As they search for her, we see Süleyman praying in a church. Ayla is now a middle-aged woman. When they arrive, she invites them in, and the journalist begins showing her photos of Suleiman. As Ayla sees the pictures, she starts crying, calling out for her father. Just as Suleiman hasn't forgotten his daughter, Ayla hasn't forgotten her father either. In April 2010, Suleiman finally returns to Korea to see his daughter. The country has developed significantly since he was last there, and he is accompanied by Nimit, who had helped him all along the way. At last, the moment arrives when Suleiman can fulfill the promise he had worked toward for so many years. Sitting in Ankara Park in Seoul, he waits to see his long-lost daughter, Ayla, once again. After a short while, Ayla appears, and Suleiman embraces her before anyone else can. After 60 years of separation, on April 10, 2010, Suleiman reunites with Ayla, the daughter he had left behind. The film shows us the promise Suleiman made when he left his little girl, and though 60 years have passed, he is finally able to keep it. As the story comes to an end, we understand that fathers live to fulfill the promises they make to their children. At the end of the film, we are shown the real-life footage of Suleiman reuniting with his daughter Ayla, on whom the movie is based.